Good morning, everybody. Thanks for taking the time. Welcome back from the holiday. Happy New Year to everybody who's actually on the phone today. My name is Sean Farrell, and we're going to be talking a little bit about just generally about the future of how licensing and different software and hardware is going to be purchased. I'm sure everybody's heard way too much about the cloud and everything that's going on with OpEx versus CapEx expenditures. But what I want to dive into today is sort of a look back at, really quick, the way we used to view technology, how it's being sold from the publishers, the Microsofts, the Amazons, the Googles today, and then really how to take advantage of, I guess, what the future has to hold. I mean, in reality, I don't think we're going to see much in the way of changes as it pertains to technology going forward. I think that as the Googles, the Amazons, the Microsofts, the Salesforces, and all these, the VMwares, all these companies have came into the market and decided to move into the cloud, it really gives us no choice. And so we've got to figure out how to embrace and adopt it. So with that said, a little bit about us. We're based here in San Diego, California, so nice place to live. It's been pretty nice over the holidays. Cold for people like us down in the low 50s, but for anybody who's out of town, I've heard it's very cold where you guys are at. But that's a little snippet of our San Diego-based group here. We're based in here, and then Southern California areas, Orange County, Los Angeles, Arizona. We do work all over the globe for companies. To give you a good flavor for how big we are, I mean, we're what's called a Tier 1 cloud solution provider, a very nationally recognized company who does work for Fortune 100s all the way down to companies with, 50 people. Like I mentioned, the offices, you see them there. Give you an idea of how many assets we actually maintain. So we actually manage and outsource over 100,000 assets for companies. We do project services for companies who are much bigger than that, but we do a lot of managed and outsourced IT services for over 1,500 businesses worldwide. And then just, if you're thinking about cloud, it's actually, we're in the top 1% of cloud delivery partners in the world, so it's a nice thing to be part of. And it's been an interesting journey for us as well as a company, just trying to help get our engineers to really understand how to move to the cloud and what that looks like, and really understand, frankly, how to manage costs and, new ways that people are doing business from a utility and or OpEx perspective. So here's what we're going to cover today. Really, the premise of this, and this really plays well for the financial people and CIOs. I have a lot of friends who are CIOs, because I kind of consider myself an innovation officer for our company. And what we talk about is, how do we in the future look at metering and really leveraging our software purchases so we use when we use it and we don't when we don't. It's kind of like turning off and on the air conditioning at our homes. It's really important, or I guess right now for a lot of us, the heater. But anyway, so for a lot of us, it's important that we understand how to really purchase what we need when we need it and then save money when we don't. So we're going to talk a little bit about the old way of IT. And by the way, I'm going to get this done in 30 minutes, so hopefully people like short webinars because we want to do these often, and so 30 minutes is our time. So the old way of IT, we'll talk about it, new purchasing habits. What are people doing today? And I just hope you guys agree with me. And if you don't, there's a question box there. Please ask them. I'll answer anything I can. I want to be very transparent in the way we're seeing the industry go. The CIO, CFO gap, or just IT department and financial person gap that we've seen and where it's actually coming together again. Microsoft licensing, I do want to talk a little bit about that. That's probably the biggest change that we've seen in years in the industry where, Microsoft's truly adopted cloud-based licensing. And then how do we prepare and manage ongoing OpEx costs? I mean, that's, in my opinion, whether you're a solutions provider or you're an IT person at an organization or you're a CFO, if you're going to buy stuff as you do the pay-as-you-go type model where you pay for it monthly, you better know how to manage it and manage the costs within and be able to purchase on the fly. I mean, because otherwise you're going to end up buying something and forget to turn it off when you're not using it, or and just, I guess we'll just say blow money or something you just don't want to do. And then we'll show you a demo of a product that we're big fans of that actually helps you with purchasing, provisioning, managing, and really metering what's happening in the world of software licensing. So let's take a look back and just kind of before we look ahead here. So what was it back in the day? And I know we don't think about this because it's so commonplace for us in IT to just be, we're so used to what we've seen that we haven't necessarily made the change, but let's just talk about it. So we used to have servers on premise, and again, we still do. For people who hear about cloud or being pressured into cloud, hey, 20% of the market's adopted cloud at this point, so don't feel bad if you have servers on premise. But the reality of it is that You had to have servers, you had to install software, and that was time consuming. That was, that took the time of a lot of, IT personnel. Software, everybody knows. If you didn't use it, I was going to use another term here, but I just said you were out of luck. And of course, that was when we bought stuff, as they called it, off the shelf from a store like a Walmart or Fry's Electronics, or we ordered it online from an Ingram Micro or CDW. But those things, are something that could be part of the past if we look forward. Of course, software companies wanted you to pay ongoing support costs, whether that be giving you what they call software assurance. You had to provide power in the server room to keep these servers running. You had to apply different types of security to have these applications, run securely so your users could use them. And of course, you had to provide operating systems on those servers, which, in the cloud in this day and age, the operating system kind of comes with. So again, but all of that, for the IT guy was something they had to think about, and really that took a lot of time rather than them being able to focus on the business side of operations, or as they're calling it today, more of the enterprise, IT within the business. It was scary, and it's still happening. Software, it's being upgraded every 3 years, and and for a lot of small businesses and even large businesses, every 3 years was not when they wanted to make the change, but big companies like Microsoft and Google and Salesforce were giving you a new version before you could even figure out how to use the last, but you had to pay for it. So it was interesting. And then you had to pay the cost with administering this hardware and just the labor cost to upgrade the software. So we know, everybody, to keep it real simple, these systems, these operating systems we use, these applications we use, they always need these things that we hear about, patching and updating and all that good stuff. And it's a good thing to have, is new versions or features come out, or we need to protect against some sort of virus or some sort of compatibility issues. But that takes time. And then of course, you carrying the risks. It's our risk when we're managing on-premise infrastructures in those rooms in the back that we don't necessarily build out like we should. I don't think everybody's got the greatest cooling system or generator outside, or the best setup of racks or cabling. And there's just companies nowadays, the big boys, who do that and do it really well and really inexpensive. And I know people who are listening are probably saying, well, it's still less expensive to potentially run something on premise. It really depends as you really dig deep into the costs that you incur, like we talked about, from power to having servers that expire every so many odd years, to just managing that from a cost perspective on a soft cost. And then I said this, but we as consumers and IT people got caught up in like the what it was. Like I had to have the coolest virtual software, or I had to have the best server from whoever the manufacturer was, Dell or HP, rather than why we needed it. And our CEOs of today, including myself, I'm asking my people, what is it that you actually, or why is it that you actually need this? How is it going to help our business? And that's what people are asking nowadays. So at that time, it just wasn't cool. IT was the guys in the back room, and today it's become something that's mainstream, and every company needs IT to survive. And frankly, like we talked about, it wasn't cheap either. Let me hold up here. It looks like we have a question. There we go. Okay, the question was, are we going to talk about public and private cloud and or software? We're going to talk about public, private cloud, and then software licensing as well today, and how really hardware and software came together in an OpEx spend. So IT isn't simple anymore, or is it? So the first thing that comes up is consuming the most appropriate services for a given application or workload. That's the world of today that people want to get in front of. If you haven't, if you sit at home and you're nowadays getting your cable, you've heard about cutting the cable at home, I'm sure, for a lot of people, where you just don't need TV live anymore. You can get it on the fly, and you can get what you want when you want it. And that's driven from the consumer side of the house, and that's happening in the business. So for anybody who's managing IT departments out there, I'm sure you're seeing a lot of your people go out there and download applications that they need on the fly, and only paying for them when they use them. So with that, you talk about how we as IT managers and CIOs and even CFOs, I'm sure they get a big bill, because I've worked with a lot of them who say, we get these bills for software I didn't even know we owned. And the CIO and IT manager says the same thing. I have no idea where that came from, but it's happening. So lack of visibility, control across a growing number of service providers. It's just, we're seeing people get stuff from Adobe, from Salesforce, from Microsoft, and things that they can get on their own. They can get personal Dropbox or OneDrive accounts, but gosh, having the visibility and the control over that is key to managing and securing our organizations. But that's what's happening, so we need to figure out how to embrace and manage it. Shadow IT. To keep that simple, people are bypassing the IT department these days. They're getting frustrated when they can't get an application when they want it, so they're going out and downloading it and getting it onto their computer. Now, hopefully we know how to secure this and manage what we call the identities of our people. Active Directory is still a core function for many people out there within the world of identity management. So just make sure that you guys understand how to secure and manage the identity of your people in and outside of your organization for that matter, meaning affiliates, contractors, just partner organizations. There's ways to bring them into the fold with you guys and share information but manage it securely. And then again, integration with multitude of dimensions with multiple service providers, service management teams. So, whereas 15 years ago, we used to see, Microsoft was it. I think today we're seeing other competitive landscape out there, not only of big players like VMware and IBM and Google, but really even small applications that we're integrating into our departments that become more difficult to manage. So it's important that we understand how to do that. And then again, understanding how to support and manage a multi-tiered or multi-sourced IT infrastructure. And when I say the word infrastructure, you're hearing the term private cloud and public cloud, or frankly, you're hearing the term hybrid cloud. And hopefully you've been hearing that for a good few years now. But all that means is that whether you leverage some component of Microsoft's cloud products in Office 365 or Microsoft Azure, which is essentially their server in the cloud, or you even use Amazon Web Services or Google Compute's cloud, and then you do some stuff on premise, it's important that you know how to manage that. So this is the new way of IT, and we just have to figure out how to embrace it. And there's a lot of tools, and we'll show you a couple today that allow you to do that and really do it from a cost-effective approach. So this is the kind of the challenge with the new IT way, as I call it. You have what's going to happen in the world is you're going to have sort of these middle tier providers like Managed Solution. Our company does a lot of what I call IT brokerage or IT outsourcing. And we are the broker for you guys as either customers or partners alike, or really the person between, let's say, the Microsoft, the Amazon, the Google, the Salesforce, and you, the customer. But what does the line of business need today? If you look at it over on the right, they're looking for agility. They're looking for choice, speed. So when I say those three things, agility, can I quickly pivot if I want to build a new application, or if I want to quickly spin up a sales application to help my sales team, or be able to build something for marketing and send out an email campaign? Do I have tools out there that give me that ability to quickly scale up and get the software I need? And that's what cloud provides. Do I have multiple choices? Yes. I mean, like I say, whereas I hate to say this, but Microsoft's not the only game in town anymore. So you want to have the choice of what application fits best for your organization. And again, be able to buy it and just consume as much as you need right up front and not have to buy these big upfront costs that carry on for 3 years. And then speed. Everything in business today is about speed to market. So small businesses especially who are coming in right now want to be able to spin up applications, hire users, get them productive, and if they don't use it, then they want to be able to turn it off, and they should be able to. The flip of that is central IT wants to have, the IT departments who manage this stuff, visibility. They want to be compliant. I mean, we have hundreds of healthcare firms we outsource, lots of law firms, lots of companies, in the world of finance that need to be compliant. So they need to have the tools to be able to manage this. And then, of course, they want to put governance. And all we mean by that is I want to be able to tell my sales team that they have X permissions into X folders versus my finance teams can get into finance and other folders as well, but be able to securely govern what each of those do. So what's happening is that these IT brokers are creating what I call like this aggregator type play, where they're taking a whole slew of these cloud products and services and putting them into a catalog and allowing us to centralize the purchase and provisioning and really ongoing management of the software we buy, which essentially helps the line of business, which is looking for that ability to quickly get it, provision and spin it up, and then manage it ongoing. We want to be able to have multiple cloud services running, but be able to see it in one place. So having tools to be able to do that's very important. And then, of course, customization of these services, whether it be bringing in a third-party company like a managed solution or some sort of software development company, whether we offshore it or inshore it, but be able to have these tools that we spin up in the cloud, highly automated, and really be able to interoperate together. That's key to the future. So that's what's happening. And these brokers, as I'll call them, kind of sit in between and help make sure that those services can be managed well. So, we talked a little bit about this in the intro, but yeah, there was this sort of disconnect between the CFO and the CTO or the CIO for a long time there. And what concerns me when I talk to CIOs today is, they ask me, how do you think I should shape my career? And I tell CIOs, I say, well, I think you need to become more fiscally responsible. When I say that, I mean, you're going to start having to manage ongoing OpEx costs every month, and you're going to want to know when your users are not using, so you're going to want to turn those things off and understand what the long-term, 3 to 5 year ROI looks like against, what you're used to, which is those CapEx costs. But, the CFO is getting a lot closer to the CIO for a plethora of reasons, but if anybody who's on this call has actually went through and purchased anything from a cloud product perspective, the bill typically goes to somebody in finance and ultimately gets up to the CFO, and I'm sure you're finding that the first thing the CFO asks you is, who's spending what where. I'm not, we used to have a budget for a specific set of servers, and I knew I CapEx them at $100,000, but now I seem to get a bill for $3,500 a month, and if I'm doing the math right, suddenly that's going to add up over the 5 years. So I want to make sure we're managing that correctly. So there's a lot more going on between the CFO and the financial part of the organization and the CIO of today. And then, of course, the other thing that's happening is really just when they look at the way applications are being deployed today. So as an example, let's take a CRM type application, a customer relationship tool, or a Salesforce type application. Back in the day when people wanted to buy big Salesforce automation tools, they had to spend all the money up front to get this big old platform. And the CFO was used to that. And then along the way, new features in that platform were put in. And along that journey, the users, the salespeople, also had to figure out how to use the tools because, believe me, these things are very complex. And so there was a lot of features that were being created by let's say the Microsofts of the world, and we had to get people to adopt it. But remember, we had already spent the money up front, so you had the CFO frustrated because the user adoption was low and they had felt like they spent a ton of money, and the CIO trying to get everybody to use it, and they were trying to figure out how do I get the right training, how do I get my IT staff to implement quickly, and it just became, there was a lot of disconnect there. But today, as you buy into tools like, Microsoft has their CRM product called Dynamics, or now they're calling it Dynamics 365, and Salesforce has its CRM tool, and or Microsoft has Office 365. Because we're only paying for it at the time when we start to use it, the CFO is a lot more happy, and at the same time our users are consuming as much as they can, and then as they need more and more features within the product, they pay a little bit more along the way. So we're just seeing a lot more collaboration between these two groups of people, and it's important to see this continue to happen in the future. So what we're going to talk a little bit about today, again, we mentioned, was just talking about how to manage a lot of what's going on within the Microsoft realm. I think a lot of people use Microsoft hardware. Well, when I say hardware, I'm going to talk about some of their cloud-based servers and infrastructures. I won't get into some of their products like the Microsoft Surface and all that, but how to manage the infrastructures that we're putting up in the Microsoft Cloud like Azure, as well as some of their cloud products like Office 365 or CRM, which is their Dynamics 365 product now, or even some of the security tools which you can buy as a software on the fly monthly. So the goal here is to talk about controlling consumption for all your employees as they use the software that they work with every day. So let me start with this because this happened about 2 years ago. So Microsoft announced what's called the Cloud Solution Provider Program going on, give or take 2 years ago. What that meant is simple. It meant that you could take licensing that you were used to buying, whether it was off the shelf somewhere or in a box or in some sort of long-term committal agreement, and just turn it into a monthly pay-as-you-go daily licensing purchase, okay? So what I mean by that is, let's say you're using traditional Outlook or email, which is called Microsoft Exchange. If we wanted to go in and see how many users you had originally set up and you wanted to pay for them daily now, you could. And we can actually see how much usage is happening on those licenses to make sure that if somebody's not using them or some user who's no longer there that HR forgot to tell the IT department about, we can turn it off. There's a lot going on through this program now with what's called Microsoft funding. So as Microsoft continues to try to claim its footprint across many, many verticals, whether that be what they call their public cloud like Microsoft Azure or Office 365 or their Salesforce tool and Dynamics 365, they're providing a lot of funding to partners to actually help implement some of these new tools that are in their cloud. There's new levels that we're going to show a little bit here in a second of managed licensing and automation. So again, as we go to the cloud, we're going to have to figure out how to manage and automate licensing. And then, of course, there's through the partners of today, which didn't used to be here in the past. And if you recall, sometimes calling Microsoft was either hard to get a hold of or very expensive. It can be done now through the partners on a 24/365 basis. So things to think about when you're actually looking at cloud, and we just talked about this before. If you guys can see the screen well enough, it's just financially preparing, understanding usage, and understanding what financially you've been in the past, whether it's a large enterprise agreement from Microsoft, or it's just been open or select, or even just pay-as-you-go licensing that came out of the box where you went to the store and bought 10 copies for your office. As you buy into the cloud, you want to look at how you used to do things financially and really understand what those costs look like, and then prepare to move up and be able to manage them there as well. Second to that, oops, a little hiccup here. There we go. That we want to be able to automate and manage. So over the I would say next several years, cloud management, whether you do it as the customer, the end user, the IT manager, or you hire an outsourced IT firm, or you partner together with what we do a lot of, which is called blended IT, you're going to want to have the ability to use tools to do cloud cost management. And they're going to be the keys to companies who are in distribution. So if you buy from the CEWs or the Ingram Micros or the Avnets or the Arrows, whoever you buy from today, or the HPs or the Dells, hopefully they're going to tell you what kind of usage you have, and make sure that you're not overutilizing. Now, I know that sounds contradictory to what they're trying to do as companies, but I think it's the right thing that we need to be working with our partners to make sure that we manage. So automate and manage. And then, so you don't feel like you're just wasting, we talked about, the water bill, because I just recently had a huge leak in my yard, had no idea, but, we just don't want to waste money. We want to be able to turn the faucet off when we're not using it. So automate and manage. These are tools that are going to be important to having in our future, and we'll show you one here in just a few minutes. So not using it, turn it off. Here's how it goes. Buy only what you need when you need it. Turn it off when you're not using it. Turn it back on, frankly, when you are. And then manage how much you use, daily, weekly, monthly. So, hopefully, I guess I didn't ever think we'd become plumbers, but IT companies like us may become those guys who help you with brokerage and making sure that your water bill doesn't get too high. So anyway, that's how it goes. So today I'm going to show you a product that's new to the market, which we're very excited about. It's called Snap. It's really, whether it's you as the end user IT person or CIO or even CFO, or you're a managed service provider or services integration company, or what we call independent software vendor, it's a cloud marketplace which allows us to go in and really do what we call from comparing, purchasing, provisioning, and then doing ongoing management of our software and hardware that we buy. So again, this is where we talk about software brokerage, having these tools to automate everything. Like I mentioned before, that disconnect, but now connection with the CFO, CIO. These are the things that they're going to want to use as their centralized portals to manage and make sure that licensing is being purchased right and not overspending when they don't need to. So I just, what we talked about is rethinking your IT strategy purchases. So with this Snap tool we talked about as being right now the #1 marketplace for partners and customers to plan, provision, purchase, and manage. It is a very unique tool where tied into the back end of Microsoft, you're able to go in and purchase your Office 365 or your Exchange or your SharePoint or PowerPoint or Visio or Project, whatever it is you want to buy on the fly from Microsoft. And then again, when you're not using it, essentially disable or turn it off. So we're going to take a sneak peek and dive into Snap. Let me see if I can pull out of this one real quick and then show you kind of a quick live demo of what it looks like. And on these kind of webinars, typically demos don't work, but we'll do it our best. All right, so if we can actually, the sharing of the screen may not be working. If we can't share the screen, what we will have to do is Yeah, it doesn't look like it's going to let us share the screen. We're trying a new product today, and it doesn't look like it's wanting us to give the ability to share. So Snap essentially is a tool, and let me just finish up with this, that allows us to go in and buy pay-as-you-go licensing for Microsoft. For anybody else out there who's a Microsoft CSP provider, it allows us to go in and actually white label and have our own cloud portal for licensing software and hardware brokerage. And then it's a self-service portal for our customers. So not only can our administrators internally at our, through the IT department decide what they want and have insight as to what they're purchasing and what their partners or customers are purchasing, but their customers can do it as well. And then again, it's an automated portal for the future. So with that said, I didn't see too much in the way of questions. Let me see if there is any in here. No questions today, so if there is any questions, happy to hear them. Doesn't look like it. Oh, we did have one. Yeah, so it looks like, how are people managing cloud-based infrastructures today? And so the question, so when we talk about cloud, for people, I know there's a lot of people on the phone, so just to be clear, so when we hear about Microsoft, Amazon, Google, and all these companies, when you hear about cloud, there's a lot to think about. But you have, for most people out there, you're probably using either a Microsoft Office 365 or a Google Apps type platform. Everybody knows that those are softwares that are being run through Microsoft or through Google in their cloud, so we can consume their software technologies that we've used, forever. I mean, in this case, let's just say Microsoft Office. The other side of that is what companies like Amazon Web Services and Microsoft Azure and Google Compute and IBM Cloud, and there's a lot of them these days. But all these companies have had these, giant facilities around the world. I mean, essentially giant buildings, and I'm trying to keep this as simple as possible for the non-technical. And they have virtual machines sitting up there that we can run essentially in the cloud. So what's happening once we get those machines running in the cloud is it becomes very difficult to manage costs. So there are other tools within Snap, the product we're talking about, that allow you to manage products like Microsoft Azure to both help you compare what your cost looks like on-premise versus your cost in the cloud. And then if you decide to go to the cloud, manage it there. But those things are totally available today. And what I actually believe, and this is kind of far-fetched, but I think that what we're going to see is very much like what we saw in the airline industry, where we're going to be able to – I don't think we're going to choose any one provider anymore, whether it's Microsoft or Amazon or Google. I think we're going to want to know that these guys do really good work in the world of cloud and give us virtual infrastructure to put our applications, but we're going to want to be able to do cost comparisons and ongoing cost management. And we have a company called Stratigator that actually does that across multiple cloud providers. It essentially looks at the top 10 globally that the company Gartner has recognized as the best in what we call virtual machines in the cloud or infrastructure as a service. So there's ways to do it. It's really simple. But again, these are all automated tools to help you with software brokering. So with that, I think that's about it. I appreciate it. We had, 25, 30 people on, so I hope that was quick. We're done right at 10:30. So if you have any questions, give us a call at Managed Solution. No S at the end. I always get in trouble because somebody else took my Managed Solutions. But happy to do these anytime for you, and always happy to talk to you guys. Plenty of great consultants who work for us, and they just want to help. As we tell our customers, we're really investing in you, and what that means is for us to work with you guys, we've got to establish trust up front. So if you guys have a lot of questions and a lot of pre-sale support that you need, we're happy to give it to you. So with that, have a good Wednesday, and we're signing off. Thanks, guys.